Hello everybody, I see I'm live. Live from Madrid. Welcome to my, I think, third or fourth cello chat at Cello Bello. I'm very excited to have something to do after my concerts this week and last week and next week have all been cancelled. I think I was supposed to play some chamber music in Germany, in the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg and in Hanover and Düsseldorf. And next week, actually I'm kind of relieved that I don't have to, out of nothing, play all the Bach suites in Paris in a week exactly. So right now I wouldn't have been prepared. Somehow I'm not really in a depression, but it feels strange not playing at all. I mean, I've been playing for 30 years and now you cannot hear me?
Oh, no, no, no. I can hear you. All good.
Okay. And now it's like from 80 concerts per year, it's 10, and that feels really weird. And now I got the news that next month in Germany everything is cancelled as well. So I used to enjoy my holidays, but not so much anymore. I'm missing the playing, like everybody, I guess. Even though I live in Madrid, and that's the only city where they keep on doing stuff. My wife just came back from her first Don Giovanni rehearsal. She's the concertmaster here at the Teatro Real, and they did, I don't know, 12 Rusalkas with full by Dvorak opera, with full cast and everything. I don't know what the rest of the world is doing. I mean, obviously people don't really infect themselves in classical concerts or opera performances, so there have been tests done. It's quite safe. People are disciplined. They sit with, obviously, with social distancing. They wear their masks, and you don't get infected. And actually, today there was a petition in Germany where they asked us to sign. They are suing. I think all the organizers are suing the government, not because they don't think Corona is the real thing, but they have done everything to prevent the spread in their concerts. So it should be fine to do concerts, at least live streamed concerts, and not forbid it altogether. Anyway, that's why I'm here, and I call the subject of this channel chat traditions and or bad habits, because in my 30 years of playing, I have done never continuous teaching, but I've given master classes, and over the years I have probably taught 30, 40, 50 people the Dvorak and Elgar and all these lovely pieces, and most of the times I hear a certain way how those pieces are being played. It's not even the traditional way, it's just the same way. It's like there's this one reference recording everybody looks up to, and then we play it. And I would love to encourage everybody to question all these traditions. Every single rubato one plays, that's because one plays it like this. To question this and think, is that really what it needs? Is that really the only way how to play it? And somehow, I don't know, in my upbringing, I had this really strict piano teacher, and he just always wanted me to play what was on the page. And once I could do what was on the page in the right rhythm and in the right tempo, then he allowed me to take my freedom. And then he also suggested things, but the only thing he never suggested was me to listen to recordings. He wanted me to find my own way, and my cello teacher actually happened to be of the same kind. I mean, he didn't like any other cellist except himself, I guess. No, it was not Pergamichikov. That was my professor I had from 12 to 18. His name was Markus Nikos, really wonderful teacher. He taught me how to sit right at the cello and the whole bowing thing and left hand, and I'm actually doing the same exercises I do since then. Since I was 12 to 18, I do until today. I call them the daily routines, and if you're interested, I have them published. I mean, there's a sum up on YouTube, I think, and I have them, I think it's eight daily routines, and they're all on my Patreon page, which I started because I had suddenly too much free time, and you should never give a musician too much free time. He has bad ideas after a while. So these traditions, I mean, sometimes we play a piece and we might end up if we don't know what anybody else is doing, we might even end up with similar things. But I'm afraid that some of the traditions we are using, they often are just bad habits. Hello, Robert. Greetings from Madrid to lockdown Los Angeles. Well, yeah, we're not locked down here. It's quite nice. I mean, we have a lockdown. We're not supposed to leave the city, but I went to 7 concerts in the last month, I think. Actually, 5 concerts within 1 week. I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't scheduled to play, so I was just listening. But it was fun to listen to live music, I must say. Not fun. It was really such a pleasure and such a fulfillment. Even though not every concert was the greatest on the planet, but it was really wonderful to hear live music. I mean, no stream in the world can do what live music can do. So where was I? Oh yeah, the traditions sometimes just happen out of I catch myself when I have a plan in my head what I want to do, and I tell the conductor, and then we go on stage and we play. And some conductors, they read me and they feel me, and then everything goes together. Some other, even good conductors, some have a trust issue, so they don't think I would really do what I told them to do, like go straight, or I will follow his beat. So he waits, and then I wait. So then this waiting game happens, and I think a lot of traditions happen out of these waiting games. You just, yeah, you wait for each other, and then you have this huge rubato or fermata or ritardando, which actually you didn't even want. And or another dangerous thing, what, for example, happened to the Elgar concerto, one of my favorite pieces to play, and actually, I wouldn't say least favorite pieces to teach, but most disappointing pieces to teach, because so rarely somebody comes and plays what Elgar had written. And Elgar was a wonderful composer. I think his music is being far underplayed. I mean, the Elgar concerto is being played quite often, but the symphonies are wonderful, and whenever I hear something by him, it's really great music. And the concerto obviously was championed by the amazing and lovely and highly inspiring Jacqueline Dupre. I mean, I got so inspired by watching especially this one video when she was really young, I think 16, 17, and she was playing around with Pleath, with her teacher William Pleath, and her outpouring of enjoyment of playing her cello was really infective, and I learned actually the most from anybody I have seen from that video, I think. Later on, and that I think what happened, especially with the Elgar concerto, she got so typecast for that piece, which she played amazingly, obviously, but I think she had to play it so often in the short span of her career that I wouldn't, there's no judgment, but and I wouldn't say she took it too far, but she took it very far away from her beginning. Not only the beginning Elgar wrote, but her own beginning. Because there is a recording with, I think, Sir Thomas Beecham, when she played it at the proms, her debut at the proms, BBC proms in London. She played it much more to the core and with, yeah, I mean, much more in what I think in the spirit of Elgar. And then later she made a free thing from it, which is absolutely gorgeous, but it's her thing. And I feel that often young cellists and even more experienced cellists tend to be caught in that one direction. And Elgar was quite specific in his markings. I mean, it's interesting, like I'm sorry for my probably lousy cello playing now, because I haven't practiced for 2 weeks. My last concert was in Switzerland, Haydn C major, which I will actually post in the next few days on my Patreon channel, and I will send some teasers on YouTube and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, this was November 12th, and since then everything else got cancelled, and I was like, I don't want to practice. So I think today I did 1.5 hours my daily routines to at least be able to move my fingers. But well, with the Elgar concerto, let's see. Best example is this first run. You know the. There she has a. He writes poco allargando. So what I just played was poco allargando. Obviously, in concert, we take more time, or we enjoy it more. The second time around, I don't know if whoever played the piece or whoever has the music, he has this. This is the bar before the next, the run up. And there he puts a sostenuto, I think, poco sostenuto. So this is kind of held back. I mean, he writes it quite specifically. Check it out. And then, after this... And there's the a tempo. So he wants that to drive ahead. No allargando, he writes a tempo. And it makes musically all the sense. Because then the orchestra plays da 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 da. Then we come to this surprise modulation and our entrance, and that's a shocker. So quite consciously he drives us through where in the first place he had taken the allargando and wants us to move ahead. So I've tried that whenever I played that piece, I always try to do this difference, and I would say in 70% of cases it does not work, because the second time allargando is so ingrained in everybody's bones, not in mine. I've never consciously played it. Sometimes I'm playing along because I'm not being followed. But very few conductors dare to drive through, and now I even approach the cello section because they are having the da da. I don't know exactly the notes they're playing, but they're playing the famous rhythm, and they need to drive into the next bar, and then it works. And there are many other places in the Elgar. For example, this. This place, he has an accelerando, which is quite hard to do because the violins have pa ta 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 dum, while we are holding our long note, and this figure always ends with a diminuendo. So in this diminuendo, they tend to slow a little bit down, and if they drive it, we actually get a nice accelerando, or stringendo, whatever, as indicated by Elgar. And then actually so the retard happens on the G, or on the second half of the G. So not da 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 dee ba ba down, then it slows down. And the second time there's no accelerando, but he has this. He has this jumping up and down, so he really wants it to be kind of struggling. And then there's no accelerando, and the retard starts half bar or even earlier than that. So two parallel places, and quite clearly the composer wants the second time played differently to the first time. And I think that should be all our duty to not only follow that, but that should be our mindset in playing music. We should not want to say the same thing twice. I mean, if an actor on a stage would say within 5 minutes in the exact same expression, I love you, they would say he's a bad actor, because how would he repeat that exactly the same? But in music, somehow it seems to be fine to say everything exactly identically the same. Okay, there are some questions now. Let's see. Thanks, Robert. Very kind of you. Okay, there's a question of Francesca. Any advice how to practice phrasing better through vibrato, varying speeds within a note or musical line? Practice phrasing. I mean, I never thought of using vibrato to practice actually the phrasing. I mean, to practice a phrasing, I would sing. I would sing the phrase and try to somehow manage to play more or less the same what I just sang. The vibrato to play different vibrato colors, well, you're catching me by surprise there. I never thought. I know we are supposed to use vibrato colors, and I'm trying, not always with great success, but to use the vibrato as phrasing, that's not a bad idea actually. So Elgar again is a good example for vibrato. The theme comes 3 times, as we know. And there's another one of those things. Elgar writes a metronome marking which is quite fluent, and it gives a certain loneliness to the whole character of that opening. And since it happens 3 times, I definitely try to use a different vibrato color each time, and also different bowing. So the very first time I would try to do it actually on one bow as written by Elgar. So this... And with the vibrato, so rather small and a smaller amplitude, and then if the next time it comes, it's mezzo forte, so you can have a bit wider vibrato. And actually, I'm playing a bit slow now for my taste. Actually, I haven't practiced it. Sorry. And the last time it comes, it's pianissimo. So that could be almost, I mean, not non-vibrato, but maybe this. No, it comes 4 times. We have the other. Yeah. Okay, there's another. But actually, you wanted to know how to practice that. And well, you could. There's a video blog on my Patreon channel about vibrato and how to do it. I mean, just on single notes, you can be small and then in the same speed get bigger, and so you could have small vibrato and enlarge it, and then you could have the same size vibrato and get faster. So this is a small vibrato in a low speed, and then you get bigger and smaller again, or the same thing in a little faster speed. And I mean, I learned to have, if we really want to vibrate, to have the fingers swing freely, so we don't do this. I mean, obviously, if something is fast, we have the fingers together, but for this. God, my cello is so big. It's like, and if I don't practice, I have a hard time getting there. So yeah, I would definitely never do this with the doubling. The worst vibrato is this, by the way. When people use the second finger to enlarge the vibrato, which is not a vibrato, it's a hidden trill. It's a 8th note trill or something. So you could do that with every single finger. This kind of trying different sizes and speeds of vibrato. And one of my favorite exercises, which I actually started doing again, I did that this morning, is to do the swan with each finger. So oh, sorry, I'm so out of tune. Now I get a cramp. So you're supposed to get the whole piece through. You can even do it in. With a thumb. that's a good exercise for vibrato thumb and thumb positioning. Obviously, it should be in tune. Don't play it as out of tune as me. And you can do the whole piece with one finger. You might not get through it. You might get a cramp and then stop. But it's a wonderful vibrato exercise. Your fingers get stronger. You have more control. I mean, the fact if we end up with always vibrating the exact same way, that's because we don't have enough control. And for example, when I get nervous, my vibrato becomes more the same. If I'm calm, I can experiment much more with vibrato colors. So it depends. I mean, if there's stress, my vibrato is faster. I mean, adrenaline makes my vibrato faster and more than sometimes I'd like to. Okay, some other question about, let's see. Hi, Joanna. You're an adult beginner who has been playing for almost 3 years. The question is about the pinky. Oh, actually, I have a very bad pinky as well. I mean, it's rather short and it's a bit crooked. So I'm not very happy and not very proud with this pinky. So that's why actually I hadn't played the Swan for 25 years. I used to practice it with each finger every morning as part of my daily routines. I skipped that because I felt I was too old for that now. But actually I started again because the pinky is a problem. So if you're an adult beginner of 3 years, well, try the Swan with a pinky. Your partner or kids or friends or neighbors will hate me for that. Just give them my email address and they can send me threatening mails. But it does help the pinky, definitely. If you really manage this. Why is that always too high? And you see my thumb, I try not to press the thumb. So and you have a skinny pinky, mine is bad too. So you could definitely improve it by, or maybe not the Swan, maybe something else, maybe just a scale on the A string or something. It does help. And otherwise, well, please visit this Patreon page of mine. I had this lovely conversation with my very esteemed colleague Johannes Moser, and I'm editing it right now, and I will. I think there should be still the live stream on my channel, and we talked about our various daily routines. I mean, I didn't talk about mine because I was interviewing him, but he has much more elaborate routines. He switches them when he plays a difficult piece, like he's learning the Sinfonia Concertante right now, so he then practices tenth and stuff, so which makes all the sense in the world. But me, for myself, I found it most helpful and the best focus on doing much more basic things, which also help the pinky, for example, like just Kosman this. Stuff like that. Or Feuillard, all these exercises, they're quite simple, but they help all fingers to know their place. And there's nothing fancy I'm doing, except maybe there's one exercise where you go with each finger and also with the thumb. So that's maybe the only fancy one. So you do that, and the same with the pinky. And again, that's a great exercise for the pinky. And the other way around, and from the top as well. Oh, sorry, didn't eat enough magnesium, I guess. I mean, I have a cramp. Sorry. These things one shouldn't do when one is not warmed up, and I was baking cookies with my son and his friend. They're very yummy. Where was I? Oh yeah, so on this Patreon thing of mine, there are all these daily routines in video blogs, and I put the music underneath so you can print it out and stuff. Okay, is there another? Okay, sorry, I go back. Questions from Bill. Hi Bill. Tips for beginners learning to play fast and clean. Ay. Well, again, I'm such a boring person, but do daily routines. They do help to play fast and clean. Actually, one of the things which is not in my daily routine is 1 second. This is a little bit. It was a very bright light here. It's feuillard and so that's for speed. So I forgot which feuillard is, but it's like a, then that's the feuillard book. And I remember my teacher taught me to go like, and then, oh, that's bad. Then, and then this. And then this kind of explosive stuff, and to separate it and then go back and forth, so that will add quickness to you, and that's not on my daily routines. So that's a speed. But for cleanness and for intonation, I would do feuillard. I mean, feuillard 8 is this. But the most important thing is that you really, what I just did was bad. You should really go as slow and as in tune as possible. So. So really, with all the time in the world, I mean, I'm right now the piano teacher for my son, and it's so hard to teach somebody to play slowly. My son is 7 years old, and actually he's getting it now, to play really slow, and then immediately it works. But if we don't give our hand the time to play slow and in tune, then how should we do it in speed? Okay. The administrator asks that I should discuss the process of developing my personal sound and sound character. Every great musician has a sound that is identifiable. You know exactly who is playing without seeing them, whether it be Daniel Schaffran or Alisa Weilerstein. How do we work on this and not become poor versions of our teachers or idols? Well, that's a good question. The best is not to listen too much to other players. I mean, I listened mainly to singers and pianists. I wasn't so interested in cello, so I really didn't have a sound from somebody else in mind, and I didn't like my teachers playing so much, so I wasn't inclined in playing for him. I mean, finally we grow up with hearing people play, obviously, but at some point we have to stop listening to other people. And I remember where I was supposed to play Haydn C major for the first time, and I asked my teacher back then, Franz Helmerson, if he could give me a lesson. I was 23 years old, and he said, no, you do it yourself. You find your own way. And that was actually the last time I had a lesson. Not a lesson, I guess. So we shouldn't look for help for too long. It's good to get feedback from other people. They don't have to be our teachers, but yeah, I think to break off the teacher not too late, that's probably an idea how to develop your own sound. And well, I won't get into that, but your own sound should. I wouldn't even try to. I never tried to find an own sound. I mean, I don't know if I'm recognizable or not. My mother claimed she could recognize me when she heard me on the radio. I actually can recognize very few people, I think, because I didn't listen enough. So for me, again, for me the sound isn't as important as for some other people. For me, it's much more interesting what happens musically. So I don't mind if the sound isn't so great, but I mind if what happens musically is boring or predictable or old news. When I hear somebody, I want to get what they have to say personally. And I mean, nice sound is easy to do. I mean, you do this, then this. I'm actually quite allergic to the nice sound being produced just by its quick bow speed. So I'm a bit old school. I like the Feuermann Casals way of kind of grinding it a bit more. So I for example, that's for me, when I hear that, I find it awful. Maybe I have a really strange taste. That maybe that was awful. But I mean, even if it's well played, I hate it. Because there's a long line over it. And it says teneramente cantabile. But that's not cantabile. That's like, cantabile means singing, but not blurring. So my favorite thing for that would be actually, I mean, I did it once in concert, I think, to try to do it like, to try it on one bow, for example. And there's no piano playing, so we don't have to play loud. It's piano. Later we have forte and fortissimo in the... So why playing the opening with this kind of lush sound? Then where do we want to go with the forte? So sorry, that's another subject. But it's a bit... That's about actually what annoys me about modern cello playing, that it's always somehow sounds so... It's never... I'm lacking fragility, definitely, and much more tenderness. It's either often like this kind of... Then also the faces are like this, and it's a lot of flautando, which doesn't carry, by the way. I mean, this... In a bigger hall, if somebody else is playing, this note would not be heard. So like... I get shivers when I think of it. So own sound, yes, dig deep into what you think you would like to hear, but it's difficult because probably then you think of Shafran, and I don't want to hear Shafran. I mean, he was an incredible cellist, but that was his thing. And I hear that actually he didn't want people to play like him. He didn't want this. If somebody did that, he would shut them off. And when they did his things, that was his things. It was like patent. You cannot just copy that. And nobody can copy it well anyway. Angela, hello. Can you talk about the first movement of the Haydn C major concerto and give advice on how to play the first chord with elegance and any other aspect of this movement to keep it tasteful? Ha! Well, I said I just played it 2 weeks ago, and I find this the hardest piece. I so much prefer playing Haydn D major. I find that much easier. And good point, the first chord. I mean, this... I had to teach it the other day, and it was like... No, it cannot be... It has to be a chord somehow, like... So to try to play almost all strings at the same time, which is not possible, obviously, but we have to come quite quickly to the top notes. So it shouldn't be but and elegance. Obviously, we need elegance, but we also need sound. I mean, I have taught this piece to sometimes wonderful players, and they think Haydn then is all this kind of, again, flautando color, which first of all I don't think fits the style. Really, in that time they had the gut strings, they had to go in, otherwise it would just be so the gut string has to be penetrated, otherwise it doesn't sound at all. I mean, I played my fair share on instruments with just gut strings. I love it. I'm just too lazy to travel around with a gut string cello, so I don't. But whenever somebody gives me one, I love to play on it, because you really have to dig deep to get the full sonority out of the instrument. So obviously the Haydn concerto is not being played like, it's not this kind of Russian style, but well, I would, whenever I have to teach it, I ask them to leave the left hand out and just do the, but try to go, yeah, you cannot see very well my bridge. Let's see if I can lower this thing so that you are, but stay there, don't move out. I mean, obviously elegance is nice, but we need the sonority as well. But to have the feeling of like you have a round bow. Think you have this round bow and you're, so those would be the three lower strings, and these the three upper strings. Then, and well, that's how I try to play the first chord. In general, I try to play this and the other concerto as well in 4 and not in 8. So not ba 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 bam ba bam ba bam ya da lam ba dam ba dam pi da da. It's I mean, even that is rather on the slower side, because that's almost an andante tempo. But in 8, I think it gets too heavy, and it has to be very joyful and up and not down. So I would definitely recommend feeling it in 4, and to get it off to a good start, I always recommend, or I beg the cellist in the orchestra to do a good one. Sorry, not, because that's always late. Maybe I want you, yeah, but they have to get us going. So it's dum ba ba dum ba dum ba no yum bum ba dum ba dum ba dum. So for me, that's key for both Haydn concerti. Also the so really in 4. This is such beautiful music, but it gets too like straight back. It gets so stuffy, and I don't know. Really feel it and go and even play rubato. I think for Baroque and classical music it can have, and rubato not meaning waiting every other bar, but going with the flow. I played once Haydn D major with Ton Koopman, the great Baroque, what is he, harpsichord player, but he conducted, and he encouraged me to really go for it, all these runs. This is virtuosic music, it's not deepest stuff. And Haydn C major the same. It's not, the slow movement is gorgeous, but the outer movement, they're playful. That's not meaningful philosophical music. That's great music, and he was a wonderful composer, but that was play music. It was show off. You have to show your chops. So this is that was bad, but go for it. Run this up, and don't be scared. I mean, I hope I played that better in the concert. Okay, next question. To keep it tasteful, well, obviously I'm talking about speed, but whenever I practice it, now I can move this up again. I do practice it slowly, so if I very bad. play it very slow with the full depth of the sound. I'm going deep into the string. Still phrasing, as you could hear. I didn't do, but neither did I do, because we're in a forte color, so it cannot be lam bum bum, but ram bum bum. So the line goes like this, but it doesn't fall down. This often actually happens in classical music. I feel that phrasing down is being down. Either it's too flat or phrased down far too much. I mean, we are still in the forte character. So to achieve that, I love practicing both concerti very slow but with all the details. So not slow and watching the news at the same time, as I do with my daily routines, but slow with all the thinking or energy and listening and inspiration possible to find something also new. Sometimes you find a different phrase. I do that before I go on stage, actually. I mean, not right before, but whenever I have a concert, I tend to go 45 minutes before, then I play through the whole concerto rather slow and give myself time to maybe find another way how to phrase a certain line. I mean, obviously there are only limited amount of things you can do, but sometimes in slow practice, I also love to turn off the light. So in dark, I play it slowly, and sometimes really good ideas happen. And then I try to do that on stage, and sometimes it works and sometimes not, but that doesn't matter, at least I tried. Question from our YouTube audience. Thank you so much for doing this chat. Your cello sounds so nice. Well, thanks, but in reality it can sound nicer. When looking for a new cello, what do you do to test new instruments? What's your opinion on modern versus old instruments? I promised my patrons a video blog on that, and I have to remind myself to do that. How to find a bow and how to find a cello and equipment in general. I will just say so much here that modern instruments today are incredible. The level of modern building has improved so much. And I would urge everybody, unless you have a big sponsor who wants to buy you a wonderful Italian cello for, I don't know, 1-2 million. I have seen such crappy Italian instruments for lesser prices, like for nowadays those cost 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. I think then one is often better advised to take a new instrument. You can mold them, you can work maybe with a builder, you can tell him what you like and he does stuff to it. I don't know too much. I mean, there's one wonderful builder in London, Robert Brewer Young. I like his cellos very much, and there are many great builders. I just forget the names. This guy I remember because we became friends, and I played once on his cello, the Dvorak concerto. I had like 2 or 3 performances somewhere in Germany, and the second one I played on his cello, which he had just finished, and the conductor didn't realize I was playing on a different cello, which doesn't speak for my poor Gofrilla. But no, you can make music on every cello. I just think the obsession about old instruments, I mean, this is a wonderful instrument and I'm very blessed and happy to have it, but not every old instrument sounds great, and not just because it's old it's not great. Even some with a famous name aren't necessarily great. I have come across some not so great sounding Gofrillas, and then sometimes a modern cello can sound better. The other day I was giving a masterclass in Munich, and my cello was in repair because the scroll, sorry, I was caressing the scroll, you couldn't see it. The scroll of this cello was falling apart. So my luthier said, "Oh God, what's going on there?" And she kept it for a month and repaired it. So I played on this cello from an old Bulgarian cellist in Berlin, Bohemian cello, and it really sounded nice. I mean, if you're one of my patrons, check out, there's a video where I taped the concert I played on that cello, I think first Bach suite in Kodai Solo Sonata. And it's probably a 20,000 euro instrument, but it really sounds great. I mean, and that's also not young, it's 100 years old probably, that cello. But from the newer instruments you can find really wonderful things. So don't let dealers talk you into buying something far too expensive. And the greatest dealers, they are a really good salesman. He can sell you anything. He will tell you, oh God, that cello never sounded that great. Whoa, God, I wish you could have that. Well, let me see what I can do with the price. And I'm afraid to say that here. Maybe I make a lot of enemies, but some dealers offer some teachers cuts if they convince their students to buy cellos. So unfortunately, you cannot always trust your teachers. I won't say any names, and it has happened, and not too rarely. I have been offered that, and I thankfully refused, because I wouldn't want to give bad advice. And if I believe something is not so good, and if something is good, I love to give the advice. I don't have to get paid for that. Anyway, trust your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your, I don't know, friends. The best way to check an instrument, though, is not in an empty hall. It's in a concert, when you play against a piano or in an ensemble or something. Best probably a sonata with piano, and you can see how you can cut through. But maybe the cello is great and you just don't play enough on it. So it's hard to tell what instrument is great and what not. But to play it in an empty hall, for me that never helped. I needed to play it in a concert to see how it responds under stress, and how do I respond with it under stress. Okay, question from Manuel Pecora. Can you advise me on how to study variation number 6 and the theme of the Rococo variations? What's number 6? Okay, let me say. This 1, 2, 3, 4 is da 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 da. God, I'm so bad with these numbers. Is number 6 the last one? How many variations are they? Well, the first variation definitely also, that's back to my subject, my actual subject, about traditions. I mean, Rostropovich plays it beautiful. I grew up with his recording, but he plays it like I mean, I haven't heard him play it, to be honest, for a long time, but I remember something really rather slow and rather romantic. And Tchaikovsky loved Mozart. And it's not called Rococo for nothing. I mean, Mozart was not Rococo, but so it was a Russian conductor, actually, I think Dmitry Kitayenko, who encouraged me to play it short, so then, which is very scary. Now I get longer again. So I would encourage you to play it, to dare to play those 8 notes on the shorter side. I mean, they don't have to be, it's not a 16th note with a dot, it's still an 8 note, but not, not this, and keep it, I mean, it would be nice to have it in the same speed, so that would be in. So you can have that all in the same speed, but you wanted to know the 6th variation. 6 is the last. No, 6 is the slow one, isn't it? But how to practice? It's nice. Also maybe not too slow. Are we? God, I'm so stupid. Okay, this is first variation. It's the second variation, and then that's the third variation, and then that's the 4th variation. I'm an idiot. Can somebody say if there's this? Is there? I haven't seen the music in 30 years, so I wouldn't know. So if it's the last variation you want to know, practice it on the string. I mean the one before the last. Sing it, and try to play it accordingly. Don't play it too slow. Try to still feel a slow 2. I don't know. Yes, that's a very slow too, isn't it? Could be faster. Boom, boom. No, actually, difficult. I've played in various speeds. Depends a bit on the mood and depends on the conductor how they play. No, whatever they do there. Forget it. I'm bad with harmonies. It's D minor. So plum plum. But dare to play soft. And if you play with orchestra and the clarinet or oboe, whoever's playing behind us, tell them to shut up. It's piano. I mean, my wife was listening to Mozart Don Giovanni in preparation for the first rehearsal today at the Teatro Real here in Madrid, and the singers were screaming their heads off. It's like, come on, a bit of piano culture, and piano not being like woo, but with intensity. I mean, intense piano like. God, why do I play everything so high in comparison to my lone open strings? You don't need this kind of. It's for me too obvious. I mean, there should be something mysterious about that variation, and so rather slow bow speed and not all bow, and yeah, and record yourself to see how it sounds. The last variation. On the string. If the number 6 is the last, stay in the string. Like quite all the time, and then it goes faster and faster, and then and that's soft. Sorry, you start soft. So quite good contact in the string if you play slow, and then with the metronome, and otherwise, and please. The octaves. So the original bowing. I mean, I saw some people, good players play. What's that? Then don't play octaves. That's part of the fun and part of the difficulty. So if you cut that off, if I'm in a jury and you do that, those are big minus points. Because it's a show-off thing, and you need to do the difficult bowing. It was a really wonderful cellist who played that for me in a lesson. I said, why are you doing that? And I looked in the score and I was like, no, Fitzenhagen wrote these mean bowings, but they make musical sense and they're fun. And she said, oh, everybody's playing like that. What? Can't believe it. Anyway, I did the Rococo version. Question from Jonathan. How did you go about learning a new piece of music after you've studied the score? Well, I go bar by bar and I play it, and I use my memorizing technique, which is also on my Patreon channel, and then I learn it by heart. At some point I know it by heart, and then when I feel confident enough, I record myself and listen to it if that what I had in mind comes out. And beside that, I try to know the music of the composer, so that I know what other pieces he wrote. But actually, if it's a new piece or an old piece or a new discovery or a world premiere, I quite methodically. I mean, I heard that my favorite author, Thomas Mann, or one of my favorite authors, that he got up in the mornings and he wrote from 9 to 12 or so. So this kind of And he wrote the most inspiring books and novels and short stories, and so sometimes inspiration can come from being rather dry, and I practice these things rather dry. I have a plan what I want to get done in one day or in one session of practicing, and then I try to read through the piece, and if there's a problem I fix it and I practice it again. But yeah, it's quite banal, I would say. There's no other trick. I never write anything in the music, so that keeps me kind of fresh each time I look in the score again. It's like new. Sometimes I forget fingerings and I have to find them again, and I find them again, and then I come up with better fingerings than I might have had before. So I keep it as open-minded as possible. Christian, hi. You want to know, thank for your advice. How do you recommend starting a slow movement up bow in double stops and pianissimo, like the sarabande in fourth suite? Breathing. That's a good question. And that's my very first daily routine, or is it the second? Whatever. Banana bow. Banana bow is like you can come from the air, and you. So I wouldn't want to stop the bow and start. So my desire would be like. I know what it is. My cello. This is just far too low. Sorry. That's why I'm playing on 440 and the cello is tuned on 435 or something. So yeah, I take it. I mean, that's what I do. But to be able to actually start that 30 years of practicing banana bows. So banana bow is for me the first thing I do when I touch my cello. I do these banana bows, which the bow comes from this string, and you, without stopping, you go into the string and out. You can see that on my YouTube sum up. I talk a bit of banana bow as well. So it's a thing Pergamenchikov taught me, and I guess he learned it from somebody else. So I have to go through more questions. Sorry. Any opinion on why there are so few recordings of Arnold Babayanyan's cello compositions? Sorry, I never heard his name. But I will check him out. If you say he's good, that would be one reason. If me, who plays the cello since 30 years, has never heard the name, then maybe because cellists are ignorant. Or I'm ignorant. Or he's not famous enough. But sometimes there's no better reason than having had bad luck. Maybe he never had a great cellist taking his music onto him and championing it. Rostropovich did that so beautifully with so many wonderful composers, and they were lucky that they had him because he established these pieces. And this Arnold Babayanyan maybe wasn't as lucky. Any advice on working how to relax your bow shoulders around the strings? Relax my bow shoulders. I mean, this one. Open strings, practice open strings. And my second daily routine is Piatti number 1, that's the second thing I practice every morning, and the idea is to play as close to the tip, as close to the bridge, and as close to something else. Tip, bridge, and legato and slow as possible. So message. So the shoulder digs in and the elbow kind of leads the way. I mean, that's how I feel. Obviously the elbow cannot lead, but and that gives me this feeling of having the shoulder not going like this, but actually using my arm weight to produce actually a rounder sound than if I start pushing. Alejandro Peña, you have the question, what is the correct position of the thumb on the bow? I don't know. Whatever feels good. There's no wrong or right. I mean, everybody has different hands. It shouldn't block. So I think it shouldn't. Oh God, where's this? Oh, so I am using the FaceTime. No, it's this here. Oh yeah. Let's see. Can one see my thumb? Not really. So it. Oh God, I'm bad. So it's like a suspension. It shouldn't block completely, so you have to have it in, so the like on a rocky road, the thumb is there, not doing this for sure. So there should be a certain curve to it, so it can function as a suspension. But otherwise, I guess you have one. Bow is the hardest thing to teach and to learn, I think. Returning to Elgar, Karelia asks, could you give us some advice to practice the emblematic scale? Thank you a lot. Wonderful tips. What's an emblematic scale? Sorry. But scales? No, I don't know. Well, that's the thing. That's why I swear on these daily routines, because if you do them, you don't have to worry about practicing any scales, then you can do that. I have never practiced any scale in the Elgar concerto because... Is it this one? That shouldn't be a problem. If you do my Feuillard exercises, these things are not such a big problem anymore. I haven't practiced the Elgar in a year, and I could play it probably in 2 hours if I start practicing now. So, but only because I did my daily routines this morning. A question from Tony. Can I ask you how to work on synchronization of bow arm and left hand on third movement of Haydn? Metronome, metronome, metronome. I did it now and I practiced every day 60. I mean, ba, 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 dim, yam, taka, 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 tang. 60, 63, 66, 69, 72, 75, 78, 81. I think that's what I did. Or even I went up to 85. Half notes. And just the whole movement through. And in the string, obviously. So it's... And I stay on the same thing. And so not here much deflection, but quite not a stiff wrist, but definitely nothing. This thing is rather counterproductive. But there's another subject. So synchronization and quick speed, the lock in the wrist, and if you play slow, but you see my wrist is quite locked in. Sorry. Martino Olivero, hello, I love your recordings, thank you. Can I ask some tips about reducing your left hand tension? Again, daily routine number whatever, 3. That's my Kosman exercise at number 4, and there is no other way. You cannot learn this in a piece. You need. I had a hand like this, and my teacher then gave me this Kosman, and so the thumb must not block, and you can only do that with simple finger exercises. That's why one does finger exercises, and cellists do too little of that. Pianists do it, violinists do it, cellists often don't do it, and then you have the problems that you start playing. People play too difficult pieces too soon. Once I was teaching a master class somewhere in the south of Spain, and some guy played Goltermann concerto, and I said, "Thank you! Finally, somebody comes and plays a piece which is not too hard." And he used to be a violinist, and violinists, they play student concertos when they are developing. And cellists, even 16 years old cellists who are maybe not the new, I don't know, Alisa Weilerstein or Hannah Chang or somebody, they start playing Elgar, and then they were surprised that they're all blocked. Okay, sorry. So work on those routines and don't block the hand at the same time. Watch your hand. The string you shouldn't push down like this, but with the gravity here, like this, and not like so not but it's hard. It took me at least half a year to figure that out, and I was 12. With 12 years, it's easier to learn, I guess. How do you practice artificial harmonics with thumb? Is there any tips to make it sound clean? Go close to the bridge. So just as close to the bridge as you can. There's a very cute story, but I won't bore you with that now. It was just the principal cellist of an orchestra advising me to play closer to the bridge after I screwed up the Saint-Saëns harmonics. So yes, close to the bridge, and play the swan with the thumb. That gives you a better thumb and a better connection to the string. And yeah, that will definitely help. Here's a great fingering I learned from a violinist. You know, that's the beginning of Shostakovich sonata. Did you see what I did? What did I do? No. So I do a fifth harmonic. And I'm a big fan on staying on one string, but I think this should be so cold, this beginning of the Shostakovich trio, that I don't like, that's not a na 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 na. You don't want this cantor thing. It's more like a cold, I don't know. So I there I really go. But that was bad. But yeah, to get the stillness, just beside the point. But apropos artificial harmonics, there's not only fourth harmonics but also fifth harmonics. Question from Paulina Kulus. Do you have any advice exercises for a nice slow vibrato in the upper positions? Well, actually, I hate nice slow vibrato in upper position. I think the vibrato in upper positions often is too. I think that in upper positions we should definitely control the vibrato, that it's not too slow and nice. Otherwise, if you mean this, if that is nice slow, I don't know. Obviously we need control there, so there's a good exercise with a cork. I think it's also on my daily routine thing. With a cork you go and roll the cork, and that gives you a bit of strength. You need more strength in that here, so this goes slow and not pluk 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 pluk, but so under pressure you have to be able to go slow, and I'm not good at this now because I'm not in shape. Question from Alison Verco. Thank you for this. I'm driving to the beach listening to these fabulous tips on Saturday morning. So good. Question. Do you have any suggestions for a way to practice thirds and octaves? Yes. Well, actually, I practice fourth every morning because I think they're so hard and awkward and they help a lot. But double stops in general, that's how I practice my fourth. So. That's bad. Should be in tune at least. Sorry. And so on, the whole thing. So ba da da, very slow, and then so any double stops I practice like this: da da da, ba da da, da da da, then dum da dum da dum da, and then single. So. When it's out of tune, you take the step back. Never correct the wrong chord. So you. And do the move. Feel from the shoulder. Don't just kind of look for your way up, but really move the whole. Feel that the shoulder is pushing it forward. Somehow that helped me at least to get cleaner in my intonation. How long does it take you to go through all your daily routines? Well, if I'm in shape, 40 minutes. Right now, this morning it took 90 minutes because I sucked. My fingers hurt. But I have a recording project in January. I'm doing Rococo variations, Rhapsody in Blue, I think Manuel de Falla, and some Madrigal by Gesualdo with 4 saxophones and piano. There's a wonderful saxophone piano quintet, and they have adapted all these wonderful pieces for that setting. So I have to learn Rhapsody in Blue. It's a very cool arrangement, I hope. So I promised myself to start practicing again now, and then I do my daily routines for less than 1 hour. But it's just basic stuff, so I don't do anything, I don't do any etudes. I really just stick to these rather basic exercises, which I'm doing since 30 years. Question of Magdalena. Do you practice Starker's exercises, or what's the best way to warm up your fingers? I don't know Starker's exercises. I'm sure they're fantastic. My problem with any of these books is that they're too thick. And I, for myself, and I recommend it, to anybody, I stuck to the same few exercises. Check it out on this Patreon page of mine. We can put the underneath the thing, the address. For me, it's the essence what I need. Other people might need different things, but this is what I need to be able to play actually the entire cello repertoire. And the bigger books, like all of the Feuillard studies, it's just so many exercises, and mine are just much less, and I play them all every day. And that takes about, if maybe you're new with it might take you 2 hours, but once you start mastering them, it's less than 1 hour. And I don't even call it warm-up, I call it rather clean-up. I need to clean up my system to really get... And Johannes Moser calls it reacquainting himself with the cello, which I like also, this expression. How do you practice long shifts? Do you rely having the fingerboard mapped in your mind, or do you have a different approach? Guess... I have this... I call it the Oistrakh exercise. So I guess it's a bit mapped, isn't it? So long shifts, and there's another... That was bad. So I'm doing this... maybe it's mapped out, isn't it? And I try to shift from the shoulder, so to have this move. And recently I found out that if I want to shift somewhere, that to think the fourth, like... Now I was thinking that, and actually I hit it better than before, because I forgot about that new trick. So I think, because the hand knows quite well how to do the... So the octaves thing, so if I move my hand, then somehow that makes sense, but it did help me. What's the best cello concerto in my opinion? Well, I guess Dvorak. It's just the most complete. It's a blessing and a curse. It's so gorgeous, but it makes every other concerto be less great, unfortunately. So that's my opinion. Hello, thank you for your chat. Could you tell how to open vibrato more and avoid left hand tension and feeling stuck in the vibrato? Well, it's the same what I answered to the other gentleman who asked about how to avoid tension. You must not press here. So if this is locked, your thumb must not press. You must be able to somehow press down the string just by the weight of your arm, and then you can vibrate forever. Then it's rather that you need to get a smaller vibrato, you need to get a bit more tension in almost. What I really don't like to hear, if I hear cellist, when I can hear, okay, now he vibrates the first finger because it's a bad vibrato, or it's like this, and then now it's the second finger because that's a big vibrato, like the old man. I had that with myself the other day. I was practicing, oh, what's that? So this we really have to watch, because that can easily just go so lame. I don't like this. The singer like, no, like this car which doesn't start. Oh. But it happens. Sometimes we just don't pay attention. That's our problem. We think we're playing something, and then we're not, because we're not paying attention. Sorry. Hi, Kimsen Yorp. That's a nice name. On my fourth finger, on 4th position and up the neck on the A string, I have a problem keeping the little finger arched. Any tips? Also, are you always using 3rd finger supporting the 4th? Do I? No, actually... No, I never. So, but I replace the 4th finger with a 3rd, because obviously that's much easier. I mean, at least for me, to do that. No, there I use the 4th, but I avoid the 4th finger as much as I can, because it's a crippled finger in my case, and the third is better. So don't feel embarrassed. I mean, practice the fourth, do the swan on the fourth finger. I challenge you, do it. It's painful, but it pays off. After, I would say, after 2-3 weeks, your fourth finger will show improvement. Question from Matvey Sokolovsky. Sorry, maybe this question was already answered, but I never found any exercise for that. It's impossible to relax while playing sautille. Bow shoulder is constantly hard, and I have to stop soon, and the thumb too. The thumb? I try to keep it relaxed, but the bow tends to fly away. Impossible, sautille. Any tips? Well, I promised my patrons a video on bow strokes, and I'm postponing it because I don't know how to teach sautille. So actually, I'm going to give in a couple of days, I will produce a video about ricochet, because that I can explain really well. But sautille is this, isn't it? But the thing is, it has to. That's a bow stroke in the string. So if you play. So you're in this. It's not a staccato. I mean, you probably know that. But I mean, I know what you mean. It gets really tired. I get very tired when I play Elfentanz. I recorded that for my Rostropovich CD, and oh god, I practiced that so much with metronome, slow and faster, to build up stamina. And the trick is to while playing change position sometimes. You like so that you don't stuck in the same. I mean, and not constantly, but at times. I forgot how it goes. This piece is very hard to record. Much easier to play in concert. If you have the adrenaline, it goes by itself. But in recording, oh god, I suffered. Anyway, yeah, try to change the angle and practice slow and play the whole piece with metronome faster. At some point you get the endurance. It's an endurance thing. And start slow. So not at 150, but start with 120. Daga, 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 daga. That's how I practiced for a long time, the Elgar. Question from Ayo Cheng. Mr. Gerhardt, may I ask you could give some advice for the 10th of Shostakovich's second cello concerto, first movement? Well, just breathe. Like. Why did I hit that now? I haven't played it in 2 years. But yeah, just I don't know. Just stay calm, and if you hit it or not, well, it's scary. I don't know. How did I learn that? Well, think you're picking up a pencil, and think of your shoulder, and don't be afraid. If you do it again now, I won't miss. I will miss, I'm sure. Well, I'm thinking this jump. So I think I somehow map it out here, and then I jump the octave. So not too much talking. Yeah, now it's out of tune. Shit. And I didn't do that trick before. I shouldn't have said that. Too high, so close to the bridge. This whole space. How does it go? Actually, that's the hardest one, because here you have to get back to the frog. But stay calm and practice shifts before, I guess. It's a scary one, you're right. Question from YouTube audience. Do you do other exercise discipline besides cello practice to supplement your body conditioning? I go jogging. And because I'm getting old, now in my old age, I started doing push-ups while jogging, which helped a lot. I started having, I have to put some cable in here, sorry. I started having a lot of pain. Somehow, even without practicing, I had pain. So I started I went jogging, and every 10 minutes I stopped to do 20 push-ups, and it got much better. So push-ups and jogging is for me sufficient. I love to play tennis. I haven't done that in a long time. I mean, I did last week with a colleague of my cellist from my wife's orchestra. But yeah, I should do that much more often. Tennis is fun. Question of Daniel. How do you find the balance when performing between thinking about the technicality of the piece you're playing and just being free and immersed in the music? Excellent question. I discussed that with Johannes Moser in our, I call it Alban Talk. I try to establish this interview series and I stink. I'm so bad at it. I have a hard time talking to a screen and having the delay, and that's the hardest because obviously we're trying to achieve technical perfection at home, but on stage we have to let go. We cannot worry about the technical problems. I mean, what helps me a lot are earplugs. So with earplugs I somehow feel more at home, and I don't know, it lets me be freer, I think, and less afraid if something could go wrong. I feel at a safe place in a way. We do have to be in control. I mentioned my very first competition in the Johannes Moser talk, where I screwed up the slow movement of the Beethoven Sonata, D major, the movement I loved most, and I played that the worst. And I told my mother how frustrated I was about that. That's 30 years ago or 35 years ago. And she said, she quoted Stanislavski, and he said, there was a famous Russian stage director, and he said that we have to be all the time in control, like the puppet player, but we must not let anybody know that we're in control. So there has to be something, some alter ego which is still in. We cannot be completely. Even if we do that, there has to be still somebody watching and listening. And sometimes I feel, and it's not only technically, it's also musically. We still have to listen. We still have to be our own teacher, telling us, no, watch your vibrato up there. That sounds ridiculous. And for difficult places, sometimes I don't tell myself much else but shift with the shoulder, breathe, don't forget to breathe. But otherwise I try to be so well prepared that I don't have to worry about technical things. And so we try to prepare well enough, but then try to be also aware that most of bad things which happen don't really matter. They are not being heard, or they're being covered, or if they are heard, it's fine. Try to enjoy the music at the same time. But in practice, yes, we have to be quite rigid with us, while then also in practice trying to let go to prepare for the concert. It's difficult. I know it's a bad answer I gave you, but it's not an easy answer. Maybe I should write something about that and try to put it in better words. Question from Angelina Luna. Por favor, podría hablar sobre el pezzo capriccioso de Tchaikovsky. Gracias. She would like me to talk about the pezzo capriccioso. Tough piece. Really tough piece. Es una obra muy dura. Tengo mucho respect. So, again, we have to be quiet in the string. It's not... No. So this has to be practiced really well. It's very, very tiring. I played it a couple of times with orchestra. Oh, so hard. It's a really hard piece. And extremely tiring. You have to prepare well for endurance. And slow metronome. Con despacio metronome. Mucha paciencia. Paciencia, sorry, my Spanish sucks. Anyway, beginning. Try to build it up. Don't shoot your power in the first few bars, and think it in not too slow. Sorry, and find variation to it. Don't each time. No, sometimes don't wait. Sometimes wait more, sometimes wait less, but please not the same. Sorry, that's a discussion for 1 hour anyway. How specially can I strengthen the fourth finger vibrato for practice the swarm? That's I said that a couple of times today. Thanks, Sage Cellist, for loving my Rostropovich Encore album. Very sweet. I like the pieces on it. I must say, I love this crazy Russian stuff. Jonna Wang, thank you. Glad you liked it. And Suka Cello says, Dear Alban, do you think there are other common misconceptions and modern interpretations? Oh, there are loads. Many. Schumann concerto. I did a full video blog, a live stream for my Patreon channel. His metronome marking is 130. His original metronome marking was 140. He got bargained down by a cellist in Frankfurt who said, oh, it's too difficult, I cannot play it, 90. And Schumann got furious and he said, okay then, 130. So that would be like 1, 2, 1, 2. That was awful there. No, legato. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions. This should be in 2. He says nicht zu langsam, no, nicht zu schnell, so not too fast, but 130, which means he obviously wants it pulse in 2. He could have written 65, but maybe he thought we can think. Second theme of Dvorak concerto. That was bad. Sorry. That's still too slow, by the way. He writes tempo 104. He doesn't even say poco meno mosso, does he? He doesn't say anything. He says a tempo, but tempo 104, not 114. 100, no. Tempo 100, sorry. And pianissimo. So, what is that thing? Really? That's me killing somebody. Pianissimo. And the orchestra's playing soft. It's fine. Cellists, we don't always have to show the strength of our whatever we have. Or we don't have. Pianissimo can be... I mean, obviously you cannot do this. It has to be a pianissimo quite... So with good overtones, but... and not too slow. Again in 2, more or less. And many other misconceptions, don't get me started. Saint-Saëns concerto. That's not a fast movement. I mean, it is fast movement, but it's not... It's almost a melodic line, and it's mezzo forte, so it's not... No! It's beautiful music, it's not a butcher fest. Sorry. Hello Alban. Cello opera. Do you have any weird routines before a concert, like eating bananas or breathing exercises? No. Actually nothing. I do Piatti number 1 and I do this. This exercise I do before going on stage, but otherwise no routine. The day can go like this or like this. 45 minutes before I need to get, or I don't need to, it could also be half hour, but I try to get into more collected. But as long as I have 5 minutes, if I have my earplugs in, I'm fine. So that's the only weird thing about me is the earplugs, I guess. Question from Patricio Gutierrez Bielma. Can you talk about memorization and your personal tricks for it? Thank you. Well, that takes too long, but there's a very interesting video blog on my Patreon page. It has something to do with visualization and subconscious and conscious. It's worth it. I learned the Pincher cello concerto, which is 40 minutes and really difficult. I learned in a month, I think, with this technique. Question from Utoshi Tenshi. Hi, don't know if the question was already answered, but I would like to know if any tips about relaxing the left hand as a beginner. Yes, I answered the question 3 times. So check out my Patreon page. It's there. It's daily routine number 3 or 4. 4 maybe. Kosman exercises, and I explain there how to do it or how not to do it. Brandon McCabe, do you hold the bow with your thumb in the normal place or further back in the crook of the bow? No, normal place. Tips for getting power at the tip. Piatti number 1 exercise. Practice. And open strings. Practice open strings and keep the bow. Keep it there. Don't this. That's pressing the sound, killing the sound. That gives you a bigger, a richer sound, definitely. And Piatti number 1, it's my second daily routine. It's very slow. I'm doing that too quick now because I have to stop. I promised my wife to be done after 1 hour. Now it's 1.5 hours. I answer the last questions. Sorry. Question from Martin Kirijan. Dear Alban, any tips for recording cello like mic placement? No. I stink. Can't you tell? I have the mics here somewhere. I put them on my desk. No, I always relied on professionals doing that, and since lockdown I could never be bothered. I always like the sound check I like to get over with, and I never check because I don't like to hear myself. So no, sorry, I'm not the tech guy here. Dan Silverado, thanks for speaking a little bit of Spanish. Such an amazing talk. Greetings from Mexico. And there's the other one. Well, I should be much better in Spanish. I live here, but I'm also tired and I'm embarrassed of my bad Spanish. Sorry. How do you begin to develop your own personal interpretation of classic pieces like Elgar and Dvorak? I'm not listening to any other recording out there. That's not my son, that's his friend. Dice hola.
Hola. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, don't listen to recordings and just try to follow your own. What you? Ich bin gleich fertig, Conny. Ich bin. Try to see what the music says to you and try to scrap all the bullshit away and try to find the essence of the piece. Go with the metronome. Now me, after 30 years, I went and I did the. I forgot. I played this once. Two months ago, I did this in the Dvorak concerto for the first time. Because I thought, why am I also always doing this lame other thing? That's really stupid. Dvorak wrote he wrote this explicitly. There's on IMSLP, there's the manuscript. I urge anybody to check that out. It's really beautiful. Many things he changed later because some cellists told him, oh, it's too difficult. No. Those were mediocre cellists. Dvorak was a genius. So let's listen to the genius and don't follow any mediocre cellist. I mean, I'm a mediocre cellist. I'm a nobody. We are all pieces of whatever, but not in the likes of those geniuses. So let's listen to the genius. I mean, Jacqueline Dupré was a wonderful player, but Elgar was the genius. He wrote the music. Let's go back to what he wrote and not get all inspired by some performances which are wonderful, but we cannot repeat them. And get inspired, yes, but take the essence from any work. And that will keep the music alive. If we just keep on playing Jacqueline Dupre's version, then at some point I think the piece will be dead. Or maybe not, it's so great. But question from Sasha C. How do you... Oh, no, sorry, I answered that. I think that marks the end. It does. Thank you very much for the wonderful questions. Sorry for overlapping far too much and for talking too much and for being out of shape. Next time I practice, I promise. And have a wonderful Christmas time. And let's beat COVID. Yes. Bye.